In today's episode of the Loam Wolf MTB podcast, we're going to be sitting down with Curtis Keene and talking a little bit about personal life, professional life, and everything in between. Curtis went from being a gym rat who had never really ridden a mountain bike to quickly amassing wins and eventually earned himself a Red Bull helmet, North American Enduro Championships titles, and started racing the world circuit. Since then, he has transitioned a bit more and has a bit more of a professional job, we'll call it. And we're going to talk a little bit about the struggles, realities of transitioning from that professional competitive life into dad, work mode, and bike industry employee. So let's dive in and chat with Curtis Keene. Talk a little bit about your career and what it's been like transitioning from what you were doing as a racer and an athlete and what you're doing now as a brand ambassador or whatever your role is.
Many hats. I think we first met when you were at Decline.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. My wife and I moved to Santa Monica. I think you were still down there.
Yep.
You lived down there riding, and we connected and we rode like Dead Cow and all that stuff. And that's a vivid memory I have of meeting you and, media camps and all that. So fast forward, my wife and I live in Calabasas, and yeah, obviously I raced for Specialized for a long time, many friends there, and I am fortunate to know a lot of great people there as their friends, and we would do many things together when we weren't racing. When I lived up north here, I was fortunate enough to where they kind of met up with me, and they're like, hey, well, what's your plan after racing? And like, I didn't know. I was an electrician before all this, and so I had a plan, but no plan. But yeah, they saw some things in me. And so when I was 18 was my last full season racing, EWS. And then 19, I transitioned to basically kind of be semi-retired, like race what I wanted to race. But one of my first call it like jobs and roles was taking care of the motocross athletes. A lot of those guys use bikes to train and prepare, stay fit, etc. And so Sean Estes was at Specialized, and that was one of the things that he led and got to a great place. And so that was like my first responsibility. And so, at that time it was everybody, Dean Wilson to Johnny O to Velopoto, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the nature of Specialized, things just kind of, opportunities arise and things kind of fall on your plate in a way, and just kind of take on, try this, try that, and fast forward to now, it's 2025, and USA Sports Marketing. I tell people I stay in my lane now.
Yeah.
I know mountain bikes. I eat, live, breathe it. Still love bikes more than ever. Road and gravel. I'm not, say, like in touch. Obviously, I know some stuff, but I'm not passionate about it like other people. So they've been cool to let me kind of stay over here. And I do help out people with those things and with MPIs, like new bike launches and all that. But yeah, I'm basically USA Sports Marketing. And to define what that is, like what I do when I say many hats, it's all of our USA athletes. So from like a Cody Kelly, Portia Murdoch, Colton Peterson, Damon Awanga, to our ambassadors, I take care of all of them. So finding athletes, talent, et cetera, negotiating contracts, all that, to all the motocross athletes still to this day. It's a big list from Pro Circuit, the Honda guys, the Lawrence brothers, even retired people too, like Jeremy McGrath. It's, Axel Hodges. It's super fun. And then on top of that, the nature of where I live and the people I've met over the years, just develop relationships and a lot of VIPs and celebs where things just kind of like happen organically. I take care of them. So helping them out or teaching them how to ride their bike better to helping out so-and-so with a movie. And then I also do fun projects like media stuff like this to help out with a bit with R&D as well, with new bikes and all that. So with all that, I got a 3-year-old. I'm not bored. So.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So it's been pretty cool. It's a lot, and I'm constantly learning out of my comfort zone, that's for sure. But you learn how to adapt as much as sometimes it can be like frustrating. It's just because you don't know, and right? And you learn, and with asking a lot of questions with people that do know, and learning from mistakes, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Man,
kind of
And how old were you when you started racing? Like, I don't want to say like professionally, but when you first got into mountain bike racing, how old were you?
I was late. Yeah,
Really?
I was super late. I was just a kid that rode bikes. Simple as that. And then I did like a mountain bike race. I was like 15, 16. And then obviously I'm in high school. And then I got in the cars. Needed money, was working. I always worked. Got in the cars basically, wasted a lot of money.
What kind of cars?
Mustang 5.0.
Okay.
Wasted a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Total OCD. But
Yeah.
it was cool, it was fun. And I got into like just being a gym rat. So I love being like active and like, doing things that were tough and sweating, doing all that stuff. So just total like gym rat, working tons, like 210 pounds. But when all you do is that, it's pretty easy to put on weight, especially when you're young, right?
Yeah.
It's much easier than compared when you're older, where it's the weight going in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was around 2001, my buddy Derek from the gym, when I lived in Northern California still. I met him at the gym. He's the nicest guy in the world, and he was actually ended up becoming a Oakland PD, SWAT, all that, and retired now. And he just goes, hey, we're gonna go ride some mountain bikes in this place called Downeyville. So I'm like, what am I, 20, I think at this point? And so I hadn't ridden bikes in a while, since I was, say, like 16, 15. And they were kind of doing this, but if you go back to that time, trail bikes were not non-existent, at least good ones.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he tells me this. So I was like, I don't have a bike, and you can rent one. Sweet. Dude, long story short, I rent like Carpiel Disco Volante, which is like a full-blown downhill bike, but it's got like disc brakes, 200 mil travel, I think it was, at Downeyville.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, which is not ideal. I had a blast. I loved it. And I just had the time of my life. I was blown away where bikes were in that time period I was away, and loved it. Went home, I think it was Craigslist at the time. I bought a used bike. It was a Schwinn Straight 8.
Okay.
It was an ex-racer, I forgot her name. I was a big guy, 210. I was just loving it. Blew that thing up, rear wheel, shocks, all that. And
what color was that bike?
It was red.
Okay, the red flake one.
It looked cool.
The Bass Boat Flake.
Yeah, it was sick.
Dude, I loved those bikes. I wanted one so bad. Was it red with like the little gold around the head tube and the checkered flags?
No, it wasn't gold.
Okay.
No. But it had the pull shock. Remember that thing?
Yes.
Dude, that thing, I just disintegrated too with lack of
Yeah,
being smooth and et cetera, and weighing 210 pounds. It was gone. My bike was non-operational.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm working. I wanted to ride. I went online and I bought a Yeti DH9 from Cambria Bicycles.
Okay.
Full pop. Spent like $6,500 back then.
Whoa.
And dude, I was just having the time of my life. And I just started riding tons and like meeting people, riding, jumping, and just I entered a race and did some local race in Gilroy, and Mark Weir was there and some other people like Ryan Finney, and just loved it, loved the challenge, and kind of just went from there. That was 2001 and 2002. I was young, entered expert, won everything with semi-pro when it was a thing, and just kind of, went from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your first racing was downhill.
Yep.
And then I guess after some successful, like how did you kind of transition from like racing downhill for fun just and like doing well to being like, I'm going to try to get sponsored? Like how did that happen?
Time and learning. That's when downhill was kind of falling off, right?
Yeah.
Before that, whether you want to call it 90s, late 90s, 98, 99, Norba was like the pinnacle, right?
Yeah.
Chevy trucks, all this.
Yeah.
It kind of started going down, and not as many opportunities, no more title sponsorship for the Norbas. So it was tough, as in I just didn't know anything, didn't know anyone. I didn't have like a mentor, but Mark Weir definitely helped me out in the beginning. So I met him somewhere at a race, and he's just typical Mark Weir, just cool as shit and a yapper. He gave me an opportunity and helped me out, with some equipment and all that with WTB. And that was 2002, and I entered semi-pro, and just, I met Brandon Sloan through a friend, and literally like Brandon Sloan is how I got affiliated with Specialized.
Wow.
You know, just became a friend. He gave me a frame. I was just like, "Whoa, you're gonna give me this thing?" You know, it kind of just went from there and just really started chipping away and working off seasons, making money. But
yeah,
I mean, work a lot, go racing these weekends and all that. Like, it's not bad, you know.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to obviously had a job where I can do that.
Right.
I was an electrician. I worked for my uncle, but I've been doing it since I was like 8, money hungry kid and all that. So I knew a lot, and I always worked my butt off, and was always grateful to have that. So I made sure, you know, always like there was, you know, I was welcome back, you know. So I was always very grateful and fortunate that they did allow me to leave for a week and go race and go chase a dream. So.
And so when did you transition from racing downhill to enduro, right? Because I mean, for maybe younger people who don't know, I mean, you had a pretty successful career. I mean, you were a Red Bull athlete for I don't know how long. I mean, you made a name for yourself in the enduro space. So when was that transition, and how did that happen?
2011, I think Brandon, Sloan, Joe Buckley, and someone else, they went to France and they tried out this thing called Enduro.
Yeah.
They did it a couple times and basically came back and they're like, you should think about this. It's bitching. It's super fun. It's exactly what we do. Like, before Enduro was a thing, like we were riding trail bikes here in Santa Cruz when we weren't racing downhill and all that, and putting shorter stems and all this stuff. And anyways, I just love riding my bike, you know? And he's like, you should think about it. And like, maybe we'll go to one next year. Anyways, it all like happened super quick, as in 2012 was a year that Winter Park had this like big enduro race. And then in the US, I think Oregon Enduro was happening. And those were good. Tons of people are going. I did that with a little bit of downhill. So I was like racing enduro and downhill in 2012 with Brad Benedict and Mitch Rapato. And dude, I was loving it. I was having so much fun and doing well. I just basically at that point, you know, after I left, and I think I got, second at Whistler for the enduro, where Jerome Clements won. I was just, this is too much fun. You just get to ride my bike tons.
Yeah.
Just on pedal up, descent, etc.
So Enduro World Series, your first times to Europe, I mean, just 10 years after you started bike racing, that's pretty insane. What was it like getting over there? You have any crazy stories or memorable moments
I've been to Europe a couple of times. So I raced world champs.
Yeah.
And going over there, it was out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
A lot to learn, right? So especially just the little things you take for granted, just in terms of your connections to customs, to having extra stuff, to getting used to jet lag, time zone, all that. Like eating simple things is like getting your food. Just every country's different, you know. So it's very like eyes wide open and trying to like figure it out. And just with experience and time, you figure it out, right? But it was really cool. I really, till this day, I enjoyed Italy so much, and I enjoyed France a lot. A lot of the riding. Some other things are questionable, but it's just personal opinion. So.
Yeah.
But we were so lucky in regards to where we were racing bikes.
Yeah.
And all that. Like, we talked about it, just like making ourselves feel old, but it was 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I think a lot of the people that are racing then, and some are still racing now, like Jesse, a bunch of people, like those were really fun. And we're still figuring it out. Like the sport was still evolving, like what works, what doesn't, what does this mean? You know, because they were doing it already. I was in France and Italy, but now we're on like a global scale. But I loved it because I feel like every race was a bit different. It wasn't just black and white. This is your format, which is, there's nothing wrong, but this is like something new. We're trying to figure out like what do people want to do, what makes sense. We'd be all lift at one race to, you know, one sight run to racing it, from like France to Italy, where maybe shuttling during practice to, and then climbing for the race, like 2 days of racing. So everywhere we went, it was cool because it was always
something different.
Yeah, just wasn't racing new tracks, partial lift, no lift. Anyways, like I loved it.
As far as like standout places, what is a highlight for you as one of the best places you ever rode a bike?
That's tough because I'm biased because my wife is from Vancouver, so I've spent a lot of time in BC and lived there. So BC, in my opinion, is like the best place to ride a bike.
Yeah.
Like if you have a summer and you're young or you have the ability to like just go live out of a van or something, I tell everyone, like people I know or just talking to whoever, it's like, go do that. Even for myself, because I haven't ridden there in years or been interior. There's so much good riding in BC. So that being said,
It's a magical place.
Italy, like I said, has always been, I love Italy.
Finale?
Finale is awesome, yeah. La Tuile was,
Yeah.
Jared and I had so much fun there, and Richie, and just,
Yeah.
even just like practicing and all that, just really good riding.
As far as like your era of racing and racers, who was always your competition, or someone that you really enjoyed or really hated being with?
I didn't really like, I was always fortunate as in, so Annika was my teammate at the
Yep.
beginning, right? And it was Annika, and then Hannah Barnes came on board. And Annika back then, like, she was hauling ass, to be honest. Like, she surprised me so many times. I'd be practicing and she'd like be there still. And then, nature of like when you crash, like it affects everybody, right? So especially you take big ones. So she was still like riding good. So it was Annika, Hannah, and then in 16, Jared came on board, Jared Graves. We knew each other from downhill racing, and we were friends, and honestly, it was awesome.
Dude's a beast.
Yeah, he's a freaking beast, first of all. And I learned so much from him in terms of like racecraft, things he would do like during the off season and all that. No matter what bike that guy rides, he's a beast, especially if he decides he's going to do it.
Yeah.
So if it's like 4Cross, even XC during, when he's training. So let alone Enduro, like, yeah, he's a man. And he was just an open book. And I was fortunate to learn from him, like chase the carrot. It's always better to ride faster people. And he was faster for sure. So with that, always chasing him, learning, and Richie was still a really good friend of his. So we literally, us three, and then Cody, when he was on Yeti, we were always together and riding, and like, so I learned a lot from Jared and like Richie trying to like, hold their wheel and all that. And then I think with time, you have to ask Jared, but he learned some things from me, like doing some things I'm not doing. So, but I definitely benefited more from them than they from me, but it was really cool. It was a lot of fun. And Jared and I were kind of similar too. He's a couple years younger, married. Like, dude, we don't go out and party. If he parties, it's all on one night, then he's done.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to ride bikes,
Yeah.
And so we're very, very similar in a way of like what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
Where we're going,
Focused.
so it was pretty easy.
That's cool. Man, I got a funny story I remember about Jared. Was at a Yeti media camp a few years back for an e-bike, and we were in, I think it was Crested Butte, Colorado, and he got there because he was flying obviously very far ways away, right, from down under. So he arrived a full day before us to try to get acclimated. Didn't work. So we're out on the first ride of this media camp on a full power e-bikes. So, 50 plus pound bike. And at breakfast, he was like, eyes were red, just looked like hell. Like, I don't even think he made it to breakfast. I think he showed up at the very end when we were like getting ready to leave. And he's like, I heard him talking to the Yeti guys, and like, dude, I don't know if I can make this ride today. Like, I was up at like 1 a.m. and I've been up since. He's like, so he'd been there for 48 hours and had slept a total of like 5 hours. He was just so churned up, right?
Oh yeah.
Couldn't eat. He's like, dude, I'm messed up. And they're like, all right, well, like, it'd be really great if you could make it on this media ride and blah, blah, blah. So he toughens up, right? Like, I don't know what he does, but he's like, all right, I'll meet you guys outside for the load up in 15 minutes. Shows up in his gear. We drive over to the trailhead, and then we start riding, right? And we're all riding, taking turns chatting with each other and figuring out the bikes. And all of a sudden I look over and he's standing up as we're talking. And we're in Crested Butte, so it's elevation, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we're like going up this like big, loose, gravelly fire road. And I'm like, why is he standing up? Everyone else is just sitting. And I look and his bike's turned off. And I'm like, hey man, I was like, your bike's not on. He goes, yeah, I know. I'm just, and he just had something to say about like, he's just like, I'm just going to beat this out of myself. Right. And he just climbed the whole thing and we're like out of breath.
Yeah.
And he's just standing up pedaling this bike that's turned off. Then we get to the top. I'm sure he probably put it on in eco at some point maybe. But either way, we get to the top and we're kind of filtering in to take our turns descending into this downhill. The camera guys are up in front. And I was like, hey, Jared, do you mind if I like try to follow you for a minute? Because I was like chasing the carrot, you know? And so we drop in and he goes, yeah. He goes, I mean, if you want to, like, I can barely see straight, dude. I'm so tired. I'm like, yeah, no problem. You know, like, I'll just try to hang on as long as I can.
Yeah.
Because I know that even if he's had one eye open, I couldn't keep up with him, right? And so we drop in and like, we make it down like 5 little rock gardens. And I'm like, oh, sweet. Like, I still see him, you know? And then as soon as we like hit 3 corners, it's just like the gap opens. And I'm like, by the 4th corner, I'm like, he hasn't pedaled once. And I'm like not touching the brakes very much. And I'm terrified because like, this is way faster than I want to be going. But he was just making speed out of every turn as if he was pedaling. And I was like, I'm not like dragging a ton of brake right now. So it's like, if I just did the slightest feather, but dude, by the 5th corner, I was like, he's gone.
Totally.
And he barely slept for 2 days straight.
Yep.
And he's like, looked like crap. And he still just was like unchaseable. It's insane.
Phenomenal bike rider.
Yeah.
That dude puts his mind to something. So he was obviously felt like crap.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to just beat this out of my system. That's a Jared thing.
Yeah.
For sure. That he will always have something's tough. He'll just put on his big boy pants and just like, he loves suffering too, but he'll just get it done.
Yeah.
So
transitioning from racing and kind of moving into more of a, I don't know, can we say you're a corporate guy now?
sure.
I mean, I don't see you wearing a tie very often.
No,
but it is the bike industry, so I guess it's pretty casual. But how has it been? Like, I mean, it seems like it was a kind of a soft transition, but like, do you struggle with? I know sometimes a lot of like pro athletes can have hard, dark times when they're like maybe they don't have a sense of like what to do or what's coming next. I mean, have you dealt with that, or did you feel like you had a pretty nice cushioned landing with like transitioning into a role that was a really nice fit for you in terms of like maybe product development or working with pro athletes still?
I was super lucky, as in, so, you know, these guys were friends and they knew me well enough, and they knew that they asked me what I wanted to do, right? And I had an idea, but not an idea. And same with them, right? That's why I took on the motocross guys and just went from there, and like they gave me time to learn how things work too. Like, I knew obviously mountain bikes and the industry and all that a bit, but like racer side, but obviously behind the scenes, there's more going on about the business, all that. So it was a soft way going about it, and incrementally things just kind of, you know, opportunities arise or whatever. Someone's gone, so hey, we need someone to fill this void. Could you help? And so I just kind of take on more things. I had an idea, then, you know, to like create like an Enduro team, to just, I worked on media projects and filming things and all that. So it just kind of happened slowly. And like, Specialized is notorious for, you work hard, there's no doubt. Because I knew that with these guys. They worked hard, but they played hard. Worked hard, but played harder. It was, I saw it for years. These guys would be on a trip and work on their laptops, and we get to Oak Ridge, and then it's like, we're kind of testing some bikes, but we're having fun. It's like 6 of us. We go ride our brains out for like 5 hours, get back to the hotel, those dudes are working again. So like, I had an idea, I understand. And I grew up in the trades, I know what hard work is. So it's more, it was, when I say like the challenges, I was on such like autopilot to go like ride and train every day. But shutting that off a little bit, because I needed to work and do things, but like figuring that out and letting some of that go, you know, like, where, because I still love riding bikes more than ever, but just what do you know, like priorities change.
Right.
So with work and your life, relationship to kids, all this, right? Ever evolving thing to whatever, like personally, your body, all this stuff.
Yeah.
My wife could, without a doubt, give you better perspective in terms of like the things I struggle with. And I think it would be, for me, it was like turning it off. You know, I was always taught to like work. So it would be, sure, like I worked during the day, and then the nature of my role a few years later, a lot of people were always needing something from me, which is fine. It's like my job, but like they're on the other side of the US to like, it just never stopped. So like I never stopped. And my wife, thank God, before we had our kid crew, she's like, it's 8 o'clock, stop. You don't have to reply to your text. I'm just like autopilot. So it was definitely when to like shut off work a bit, and then better with time management, if that makes sense. So especially now, just fast forward to now, all the things I have to do, I have no choice, especially with a 3-year-old, right? To be a good husband and a dad and all that. So wake up early, the whole deal, wake up 4 a.m., just get a head start on crew, because he wakes up at 6 a.m. like clockwork every day. And I love taking him in the morning, you know? But like getting some work done in the morning, say things that have to be done or should be done, and then kind of throughout the day, then you have your meetings, or I'm gonna go ride or meet up with so-and-so. I need to do that. So it's getting better with like time management, what's priority, what's not. That has been like the biggest thing, or like ever going thing I have to kind of adapt and learn from.
Yeah.
You know.
And now I would imagine also that like, but maybe I'm wrong, the physical fitness thing, like, I mean, you were training, your body was your tool, right? For so long that you're still competitive, right? Like you still want to ride, and you probably are comparing times, you know, ups and downs now to where you were 10 years ago. And it's like, I'd imagine that you're like, man, I've been spending a lot of time at a desk or like on a computer, and like I feel my fitness sucking out of my body. Was that like a tough one at all, or were you kind of welcoming that break?
Dude, up until like the last like probably 2 years.
Really?
Yeah, because I was where I was, I still had, I still rode my bike, and I was doing things with people. So it wasn't structured, and I wasn't like, I'm gonna do my intervals, this and that. I was like riding my bike. I've been riding a bike for so long that, yeah, like I have base fitness for days, right? But it wasn't like I was gonna do a 15-hour week and 2 gym sessions, all that. So it wasn't like, probably till like a year and a half or so ago, I was just with like time and priorities, going back to that, I was letting that go. Because part of me is like, my mind's like, dude, I ride people that are really fast, and like inside, like in my head, I'm like, I can fucking beat them, you know?
Yeah.
But the reality is like, maybe for this, but the thing is, I don't have 3 days of going full tilt, climbing 6,000 feet a day.
Yeah.
There's no way. Or like I could do it for a couple days, but dude, I would be effed for like 2 weeks. So it's like the repeatability. Anyways, letting that go and being okay with it is like definitely a transition. I have other goals. And it's funny because I actually told my wife, acknowledging that and realizing I still ride my bike and I want to be fit. But me being 185 pounds, 190, and being able to go do like a 8K day, no problem on the Epic Evo, I could do it. It wouldn't be easy. And I would be kind of effed the next day, most likely. It's okay.
Yeah.
You know?
You're starting to be okay with that.
And like, I'm okay. Like these kids want to go fast. I was up in Whistler riding with like Cody Kelly, Mitch Rapato, and just a bunch of rippers. And they're obviously in touch, going fast. And I'm just a bit smarter. I've always been smart. I don't just send it. But I was just kind of, I was like, I'm going to reel back a notch because I don't know what's over there. And it's okay for them to like walk away a little bit, you know? But inside I'm still
but it's still, it's still eating at you.
But it doesn't matter.
Let's talk a little bit about your, I guess, evaluation of like ambassadors? I know from moto to pro mountain bike riders, celebrities, and all that sort of stuff. How does Specialized, because I think I would probably argue that they're one of the most famous brands for influencers, right? Whether that is the moto guys or whatever. Say like guys from like Normal MTB or to Jeremy McGrath to whatever, like how do you guys evaluate a return on getting these types of people bikes and equipment?
So tricky, dude. Well, first of all, what does it cost you, right?
Right.
ROI. So like someone you spend a bunch of money on, what are you getting out of it? So whether it's social media is like, I feel like it does this thing, but you can't rely too much on just like engagement to all this stuff, followers, all that. That's all great, but like, what does that mean at the end of the day? Like how much, unless there's a direct link or something that ties them to sales, it's hard to decide like, all right, giving Mark Wahlberg that bike in a post, like, what does that mean? Like, did that really mean any sales? Brand awareness for sure. And like getting more eyes, but like how many people went out there and bought something Specialized? You'll never know,
Right.
because we didn't have a direct link. So it's very like what we're spending. And I think at the end of the day, I personally, when trying to find people, athletes and all that, is find someone that's genuine, that loves bikes. They're good people, work ethic. And then after all that, you can figure out like, say what we need help on, or we need to push X, Y. We have a new bike, we need some eyes on it, or we need more people, hopefully do like a demo day at X Spot or some ride days at a retailer. There's many moving parts to how we're going to like, say, leverage this person, whether it's part of their contract or they're just something they want to do, help out for, if it's a free bike, so-and-so. I can't ask Orlando Bloom for too much because, I just gave him a bike. So I have to be like realistic to like, hey, can you do this on Thursday, this and that? And it's like, and all that goes back and starts at the base and start of it all is a relationship where all these people is just relationships. And that just takes time, where you figure out what they love, don't like. Kind of everyone has their own quirks. We all do where we are, like kind of what makes sense, what they ride, and like getting to know them, So it's literally just time, relationships, and figuring out if it is something big, is it worth the cost? And that's not just me, it's other people in the company. We talk about it, and if it makes sense at the time, and do we want to? Some things are no-brainers.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we definitely get a fair amount of questions, whether that's emails or whatever, people reaching out, asking for advice or suggestions on like, I really want to get sponsored, or I want to be an influencer now, right? For so long, it was like, I want to get sponsored, right?
Yep.
And they're mostly racer inquiries, but now you've got people who just are doing the influencer route, and it's like, what would be your thoughts? Like, because I'm sure you get a million of those requests, right? But like you said, it's an infectious person, someone that stands out in the community, and it's more than just results, right? Or follower count, I'd imagine.
100%. That's even like a trickier one. I feel like we're trying to figure out, because, well, the nature of the times right now in the cycle industry, everyone's cutting budgets and all this stuff. But even with that being said, social media has been changing and will always change. Or even like, it was like what MySpace to like Facebook, to Instagram, to TikTok. Like, what's the next thing? It's like YouTube is doing really well, long format, shorts, all that. But that being your job, a social influencer, is really hard, because just because one thing is crushing it now doesn't mean it's going to be relevant in a year from now, 5 years from now. It's an ever evolving thing to try and keep people engaged, bring value to your sponsors. So it's really tough. And it's like, for us as well, as how, like, what makes sense, just because you have a lot of views doesn't necessarily mean, like I said, it's worth the money, as like the bosses, they got to figure out, where the money's going and why. And we're not always accurate, of course, but we just try to look at it from different perspectives and who the person is and like, you know, what they're doing. Does it drive traffic, or maybe this network of people they know? Like sometimes it just makes sense. You just know. So you just figure out if you have the budget. It's just simple as that. And other times you're questioning it, and collectively we're seeing if it does make sense. So it's I'm not giving like a straight answer, but there is none, to be honest.
Right on, man. Well, appreciate the time and chatting, talking about your transition and personal journey along the way. But hopefully we can get out and go ride some bikes. And thank you guys for joining and tuning in. If you have any more questions, leave them down below. We'll try to answer them or ask Curtis. But thanks, dude.
Thank you.
Excited to go ride
Let's go have
bikes
some
with you.
fun.